This is an overview of gifted education at Indiana Area School District. My name is Mandy Anderson from the TAC team at Erin Intermediate Unit. I will be giving you a overview of gifted education according to Chapter 16, part of Pennsylvania's School Code. The U.S. Department of Education defines gifted as children and youth with outstanding talent who perform or show the potential for performing at remarkably high levels of accomplishment when compared to others of their age, experience, or environment. A gifted student is defined by the Pennsylvania Department of Education as a student with outstanding intellectual and creative ability, the development of which requires specially designed programs or support services, or both, not regularly provided in the regular education program. Once identified as a gifted learner, the team will determine if the student is in need of specially designed instruction from the multi-level criteria and team member input. So a GIEP is implemented when a student meets a two-pronged approach. They're identified as a gifted learner and they are in need of specially designed instruction. Programs for gifted children fit into the array of special programs available for all exceptional children. These programs reflect individual differences, equal educational opportunity, and desire for the optimal development of each child. The guiding principles for planning and implementing programs for the gifted include the following. The local school district is primarily responsible for identifying all exceptional children and developing educational programs to meet their needs. The Pennsylvania school law includes gifted students as children with exceptionalities who need specially designed instruction. Like all exceptional children, the gifted student possesses special characteristics that significantly affect that student's ability to learn. In order to reach the maximum educational potential, the gifted student's curriculum must be appropriately modified on an individual basis. Appropriate specially designed instruction should be based on the gifted student's needs and abilities. The key to challenging the gifted student is the connection between instruction and individual cognitive and affective behaviors. The emphasis in special programs for these students should be on the stimulation of the cognitive processes of creativity, originality, problem solving, and complexity, increasing content depth and sophistication. The GIEP should be based on information obtained from formal and informal comprehensive needs assessments, including input from parents. The gifted multidisciplinary evaluation and present levels of educational performance must be sufficient in depth and breadth to provide framework for comprehensive gifted individualized education programming. Student assessment and performance data should be reflected in the development of the GIEP. The gifted student may be involved in the development of the GIEP at the parent's discretion. The placement of a gifted student should ensure that the student is able to benefit meaningfully from the rate, level, and manner of instruction. An effective approach would include all of the following: acceleration, in which instruction is matched to the competence level of the student; enrichment, in which opportunities for the investigation of appropriate materials are given; and individualization, in which instruction is matched specifically to the student's achievement, abilities, and interests. The placement of a gifted student should provide learning opportunities that go beyond the program the student will receive as part of regular education. School districts must ensure that the gifted student's individualized program is in a range of acceleration and enrichment options that are appropriate for the student's needs. The regular education curricula and instruction must be adapted, modified, or replaced to meet the individual needs of the student. Gifted education programming must be an integral part of the instructional school day. Gifted students are not just gifted for a specific time each day or week. Responsibility for development and implementation of each GIEP is shared between regular education teachers, gifted education teachers, and administrators. Gifted students benefit from being grouped with their intellectual peers for a significant part of the instructional day. The continuum of programming services that exists for the gifted student must be based on sound research and best practice. Research studies from the National Research Center on the Gifted and Talented support flexible grouping for gifted students across grade levels and content areas. The research studies also indicate that ability grouping, coupled with acceleration and differentiated curricula, provides maximum instructional benefit to gifted students. Incorporating homogeneous grouping of the gifted with systematic and continuous provisions in their K 12 educational planning offers gifted students opportunities to broaden and deepen their knowledge through interaction with their intellectual peers. Gifted screening versus gifted evaluation. So, to formally identify a student as gifted, you need the multidisciplinary evaluation, which involves a school psychologist and some in depth evaluation, some cognitive testing to get that official IQ score or the intelligence score that's used as part of the identification process. That's where it starts. It also includes this big review of records where we're gathering all this information on the student and determining whether they need specially designed instruction. So we recommend that since we're going to be compiling all that data anyways, we start with the screening process when we have a student who we think might be gifted or might need gifted services. So whether that recommendation comes from the parent or the teacher, we strongly suggest that we start with a screening. Now, a parent can request, according to Chapter 16, annually can request a multidisciplinary evaluation. So they can deny the recommendation of starting with a screening and they can ask that the student be evaluated up to one time per year. When a parent does request that formal evaluation process for a student to be identified as gifted, we have some timelines that are activated. So once we have the formal request for evaluation, we have 10 days to send home that permission to evaluate. Once we have received permission to evaluate, we have 60 calendar days to complete that evaluation and send home a written report. Then we are looking at a GIEP meeting. We have to send home an invitation to the parents at least 10 days before the meeting. We have 30 days from the date of that written report of the evaluation to develop that GIEP. Once we have developed the GIEP, had the GIEP meeting, and we have determined the appropriate assignment and the parent has signed the NORA, we have 10 days to start implementing the IEP. So the NORA, that notice of recommended assignment, must be presented to the parents at the GIEP meeting or within 5 days of the meeting, and the parents have 10 calendar days to respond by mail or 5 days if they are at the GIEP meeting. Newly identified students must have an GIEP developed in a timely fashion, and then that GIEP is reviewed and updated annually in accordance with student needs, updating their present levels, and making sure that their placement matches their needs. A student's GIEP is based on way more than an IQ score. The foundation for an effective GIEP is a robust present levels of educational performance section. This section includes achievement, test scores, progress on goals, instructional levels, and anything about the student related to their abilities, their strengths, and their goals. This information is updated annually, and all teachers are required to provide updated input for the annual GIEP meeting. When it's time for a student's annual GIEP meeting, you will receive a GRS, CHUSCA, or a teacher input survey. Please complete these surveys within 5 days of receiving them. Also, it's important to note, do not leave any item on the GRS or the CHUSCA blank. And if you are unsure how to answer any of the items in the artistic section, please consult with your art and music teachers. When you're completing the teacher input form, please make sure your statements are individualized to the student you're focusing on. And your statement should focus on the student's strengths, both academic and social. Some questions to consider: what enrichment strategies and SDI have benefited the student most in your classroom? Any detail or description you can provide on what has worked in your classroom is helpful. So when we have the GIEP meeting each year, it must include one or both of the student's parents, guardians, caregivers, the student, if those caregivers choose to have the child participate, a representative of the district, the LEA, somebody who knows the availability of the resources and can make decisions. We have to have one or more of the student's current teachers, and then any other individual that the parents or the district chooses to invite, along with the teacher of the gifted. It can also be helpful to include details about activities or lessons, projects throughout the school year in which this student particularly excelled. The teacher who's invited to participate in the GIEP meeting will receive some invitations via Google and IEP Writer. Please make sure you respond to those invitations within 2 days. After you attend the GIEP meeting, please make sure to revisit IEP Writer to verify your attendance within 2 days of the meeting. Specially designed instruction, or SDI, includes adaptations or modifications to the general curriculum, instruction, and structural environments, methods, materials, or a specialized curriculum for students who are gifted. This may consist of planning and implementing varied approaches to content, process, and product modification in response to the student's interests, ability levels, readiness, and learning needs. SDI for gifted students may include compacting, accelerating the student, or placing the student in more than one grade level. Implementation of specially designed instruction requirements is the responsibility of both the gifted support staff and regular education teachers. All teachers must play a role when providing instructional adaptations and modifications for the gifted. Assessed student needs must be the basis for the specially designed instruction, not delivery of a single option or a one-size-fits-all program. We'll dive into different options for differentiating instruction in the next section.